What's up, guys, and welcome to another video of DevTalks with your host Traven, where we talk about everything engineering technology-wise. And in this video, we're going to be diving into some of this interview that Tucker Carlson did with OpenAI CEO, and there's other points that I want to really get to in this video overall. So the first thing is morality, and then we have a whole bunch of other segments of this that I actually individually want to break down for you guys. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and let's dive into this.
So if it's nothing more than a machine and just the product of its inputs, then the two obvious questions, like what are the inputs? Like what's the moral framework that's been put into the technology? Like what is right or wrong according to GPT?
Do you want me to answer that one first?
I would.
Question.
Yeah.
So on that one, someone said something early on in ChatGPT when that really has stuck with me, which is one person at a lunch table said something like, we're trying to train this to be like a human, like we're trying to learn like a human does and read these books and whatever. And then another person said, no, we're really like training this to be like the collective of all of humanity. We're reading everything, we're trying to learn everything. We're trying to see all these perspectives. And if we do our job right, all of humanity, good, bad, very diverse set of perspectives, some things that we'll feel really good about, some things that we'll feel bad about, that's all in there. Like this is learning the kind of collective experience, knowledge, learnings of humanity. Now, the base model gets trained that way, but then we do have to align it to behave one way or another and just say, I will answer this question, I won't answer this question. And we have this thing called the model spec where we try to say, here are the rules we'd like the model to follow. It may screw up, but you can at least tell if it's doing something you don't like, is that a bug or is that intended? And we have a debate process with the world to get input on that spec. We give people a lot of freedom and customization within that. There are, absolute bounds that we draw, but then there's a default of if you don't say anything, how should the model behave? What should it do? How should it answer moral questions? How should it refuse to do something? What should it do? And this is a really hard problem. That we have a lot of users now and they come from very different life perspectives and what they want. But on the whole, I have been pleasantly surprised with the model's ability to learn and apply a moral framework.
So I haven't seen this whole podcast or anything. The only part that I've covered and I released a video on it was the part about his quote unquote murdered or former employee where something happened to the former employee or whatever. I only saw that part. I was about to say it's very, very, very extremely hard to get the model to basically go across everybody's moral compasses, especially in the whole world. And this is where I want to show you guys, because this is actually very relevant to the next part about people committing suicides and doing other kinds of stuff using their platform. And they actually dive into this, and I'm actually really curious about that section because I've been wondering about this. If anybody was going to ask them any questions about the growing situation with that. But you look at it in just the US alone, you look at the whole world entirely, everybody's moral compasses are so different. Especially in the US. Some people are just morally wrong and morally evil. They are. And what I would consider morally wrong or evil, others might not. So this is how it becomes very complex, and where you do it to where they have to sit here and say, as a collective, we don't want any of this stuff to be encouraged, no matter what. But it's hard for us to say for certain things if this is okay or not, because you know who's the guinea pigs that's giving it all the feedback and stuff? He just said it. We give this out to everybody and they will give us the information back. And it's just growing as they get more users. This is what we're saying entirely, that the world are these people's guinea pigs. I have not used AI in any aspect of a moral question at all. Any morality questions at all. I've never had a reason to do that. You know who I talk to when I have conversations that go against, that can talk about people's morals and moralities and things like that? Other people. I talk to other people, other human beings, not AI. Because say now you mad at this AI, what you gonna just go use another one? The other one could say the same thing, morally or not. What are you gonna do? Shape it to morally fit your image and stuff like that? Okay. Now what? Now you sitting here, you grown as ever, or you're one of the minors that build relationships with AI. You're probably a grown man, woman, building a relationship with AI. Now this bot's your new best friend. You tell it everything. They're training and using everything you tell it to train it. Using everything you tell it. Every personal thing, every issue you have. They're using all of this stuff on you. Because you're the guinea pigs. I have not found one reason to do something like this with AI. Not one. Wait, somebody in the comments down below, tell me any reason that would be necessary to use AI on a moral aspect besides getting some work done and doing some other stuff like that, helping you with some projects, being an assistant that you don't have to put your life problems onto. What way do you need to do that? What advice are you asking a robot that was created a few years ago? You know, there's people who's lived through stuff for 30 plus years, whole lifetimes, more than you ever lived. And you're going to ask a robot that was just created a few years ago? An AI that was created a few years ago? Yo, get some help. Talk to some real people. Don't be their guinea pigs.
But what moral framework? I mean, the sum total of like world literature or philosophy is at war with itself. Like the Marquis de Sade is, like nothing in common with the Gospel of John.
Right.
So like, how do you decide which is superior?
That's why we wrote this like model spec of here's how we're going to handle these cases.
Right, but what criteria did you use to decide what the model is?
Like
who decided that? Who did you consult? Like why is the Gospel of John better than the Marquis de Sade?
We consulted like hundreds of moral philosophers, people who thought about like ethics of technology and systems. And at the end, we had to like make some decisions. The reason we try to write these down is because A, we won't get everything right. B, we need the input of the world. And we have found a lot of cases where there was an example of something that seemed to us like, a fairly clear decision of what to allow or not to allow, where users convinced us like, hey, by blocking this thing that you think is an easy decision to make, you are not allowing this other thing, which is important, and there's like a difficult trade-off there. In general,
I need an example. I need an example of what moral compass things that they blocked, that a users came to them in bulk to say, we need this because it's blocking us to get to this. I'm really curious of what that example is. Anybody else? Anybody else? I am extremely curious. I need an example of what? Of what? And really talk about it. You can give any type of context. It don't even have to be a real situation. Just give a general example of what.
Tension that... So a principle that I normally like is to treat our adult users like adults. Very strong guarantees on privacy, very strong guarantees on individual user freedom. And this is a tool we are building. You get to use it within very broad framework. Within a very, very broad framework. On the other hand, as this technology becomes more and more powerful, there are clear examples of where society has an interest that is in significant tension with user freedom. And we could start with an obvious one, like, should ChatGPT teach you how to make a bioweapon? Now, you might say, hey, I'm just really interested in biology, and I'm a biologist, and I want to, I'm not going to do anything bad with this. I just want to learn. And I could go read a bunch of books, but ChatGPT can teach me faster, and I want to learn how to, I want to learn about like novel virus synthesis or whatever. And maybe you do. Maybe you really don't want to like cause any harm. But I don't think it's in society's interest for ChatGPT to help people build bioweapons. And so that's a case.
Sure, that's an easy one, though. There are a lot of tougher ones.
I did say start with an easy one.
Yeah. We've got a new partner. It's a company called Cowboy.
Yeah, we're getting right through that. But this is exactly what I was talking about where, dang, but that's exactly what I was talking about when it came to give me an example. Yeah, bioweapons and stuff. To a certain extent, where would they block it though, as far as biology? And I could understand it's like, hey, I can't get to this answer. I'm not trying to build a bioweapon. I'm trying to figure out how to synthesize them in other routes. But maybe that's in a context where you give specific permissions depending on the department that pays for it. Like say if there's like a governmental scientific laboratory or something like that, and their business is to synthesize things to help like preventatives or things like that in a certain biology aspect, or they're trying to do some biological research on mutations and things like that. Where does it cut the lines off though, I wonder? I'm not like an actual scientist, so if any scientists see this and want to elaborate on if you've tested this with AI in an aspect, where does it cut it off and block your research at, and where do you have to continue your research in things? Because I think if stuff is in books, right, to a certain aspect, it should be allowed to a degree. And I mean actual like real scientific novel informational books, not no crazy ones to support anything insane, like actual educational novels and published books. That's where I'm coming from on this aspect. But yeah, if any scientists know, let me know in the comments on where it's blocking your research at for like that extent right there.
And we make them without even recognizing them
Yeah.
as such. And this technology will be, in effect, making them for us.
Yeah.
And so,
Well, I don't agree with it'll be making them for us, but it will have to.
We'll be influencing the decisions for sure. And because it'll be embedded in daily life. And so who made these decisions? Like who are the people who decided that one thing is better than another?
You mean like
What are their names?
which kind of decision?
The basic, the specs that you alluded to that create the framework that does attach a moral weight to worldviews and decisions, like, you know, liberal democracy is better than Nazism or whatever. They seem obvious, and in my view are obvious, but are still moral decisions. So who made those calls?
As a matter of principle, I don't like dox our team, but we have a model behavior team, and the people who want to.
Well, it affects the world.
What I was going to say is the person I think you should hold accountable for those calls is me. Like I'm a public face. Eventually, like I'm the one that can overrule one of those decisions or our board.
And just turned 40 this spring.
I won't make every.
It's pretty heavy. I mean, do you think and it's not an attack, but I wonder if you recognize sort of the importance.
How do you think we're doing on it?
I'm not sure. But I think these decisions will have, you know, global consequences that we may not recognize at first. And so I just wonder.
When you think about that, at the end of the day, every CEO is going to be liable. They're always going to be on a chopping block. Do you know what's crazy about companies? The board is typically the ones that make a lot of the hard decisions overall. Some of these CEOs, they have a large stake and they're also on the board, so they get votes. So that's why he said me and the board to some context. Like, for example, Elon. Elon is actually on Tesla's board. So he has votes and things like that. So anything that goes into Tesla, not only is he reliable for his CEO decisions, but also he is on a board aspect as well too. A lot of these CEOs, they probably do have some board votes and seats or something like that as well too. So he will say they have to share the blame when stuff like this happens, especially when you look at the stuff that we're about to cover right after this. But I was hoping he wasn't going to dox his team, but yeah, he was like, they have a model behavior team, but it is such a strong task to sit there and be like, yeah, let's go with it. And people's lives are impacted by this continuously. Or like, I mean, even on the political standpoint, you can't have the bot get political in any shape or form, I think, because if you have it leaning one way or another, any other person is going to be like, on the other side, is not going to like your product. And the thing is, well, you want to have as many users as possible. So how do you fit as many users as possible? You keep certain things open ended, where that the robotics things gives you exactly what you want. There's a reason why people think that Grok, Elon's AI bot, is extremely conservative or whatever the hell they think it is. They think that for a reason. And a lot of people probably won't use Grok because of their views on where it stands in a political aspect, where you have to keep certain things wide open as that decision maker of what's morally right, what's morally wrong, and things like that. And that's why I also say, like, you should only be using it in an aspect of a tool, not like, hey, let me ask it something that it can sway either one or the other way politically. It should just give me the direct factual answers and responses. Right? Let me know if I'm crazy.
Do you get into bed at night and think like the future of the world hangs on my judgment?
Look, I don't sleep that well at night. There's a lot of stuff that I feel a lot of weight on, but probably nothing more than the fact that every day hundreds of millions of people talk to our model. And I don't actually worry about us getting the big moral decisions wrong. Maybe we will get those wrong too. But what I lose much sleep over is the very small decisions we make about a way a model may behave slightly differently. But it's talking to hundreds of millions of people, so the net impact is big.
So, but I mean, all through history, like recorded history up until like 1945, people always deferred to what they conceived of as a higher power. Hammurabi did this. Every moral code is written with reference to a higher power. There's never been anybody who's like, well, that kind of seems better than that. Everybody appeals to a higher power, and you said that you don't really believe that there's a higher power communicating with you, so I'm wondering, like, where did you get your moral framework?
I mean, like everybody else, I think the environment I was brought up in probably is the biggest thing. Like my family, my community, my school, my religion, probably that.
Do you ever think, I think that's...
The reason why they came into that, I want to end off right there, because he asked him a bunch of questions around morality and things like that, and you put this weight on his shoulders. But prior to that question, they were talking about his religious standpoints, and like where he stands religiously and things like that, because a lot of people's moral compasses, including myself, aligned with their religious beliefs to an extent. And some people who don't have religious beliefs, morality may be more expansive and things. It really depends on like the person. Some people believe in other things than others, and what's right and what's wrong and stuff like that. So he's saying if you don't even, I believe that he said something based on some comments I read, because I still have to go back to the beginning to watch all of those comments to make sure it's factual. I believe he said like he is a particular religion, like he's Jewish or something like that, like upbringing was, but he's not really like into that actual religion aspect, to like he's not extremely religious and things to a certain aspect or whatever. I believe I saw somebody said in the comments about that portion, and they were like, that's such a weird contradiction to say that you're this but you're not, in a kind of sense. So that's why Tucker Carlson sitting there like, you're not really like believing in that higher power, like you don't believe in that stuff, so like how can you be the person, that spokesperson there? But the thing is, he's just okay and checking off a lot of different things, because he has his team that's going around on doing all these model behavior stuff. I would look at, like, in all seriousness, you would have to almost like, yeah, you would blame him, but that team is a large percentage of how it's going to act, and they're going to be making a lot of big decisions in there, and those team members may be impacted if any morality kind of questions get out like that. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you guys think. I think the morality of AI is actually a really good question. I don't even think it should. We should even be thinking about it in an aspect like it is. I only believe on using AI as an actual form of a tool, not anything else, just a tool itself. So yeah, let me know what you guys actually think. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. I really appreciate you all. If you want to send me any recommendations, send me an email, devtalkspod@gmail.com. Without further ado, peace and see y'all next time.